July, August, September. 6 months ago, the gentleman on my right was trending on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. Literally trending on Twitter.
The wrong reasons.
All right. So, gentlemen, please share with us your name and what it means.
My name means?
Yes.
So my name is Jack Ngare. I don't know what Jack means, but Ngare, from what I understand, in Peru it means leopard, I think. Yeah. So that's it. So you can call me Jack Leopard.
You heard him. You can call him Jack Leopard.
Yeah.
Well,
my middle name is called is you don't believe this. My middle name is Mugo.
Mugo.
And from what I heard, it's witch doctor. So a leopard witch doctor.
So he's a leopard witch doctor. And in case you're having any issues, please see Dr. Leopard on our right.
So if you see those boards on trees,
yes.
What are they? Ones for witch doctors who can cure many things. Those are kind of mine. Yeah.
We need Doctor Leopard. Yeah. Ama aka Ngare.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Jack. Please tell us where you were born and the order you are in your family.
Yeah. So I was born here in Nairobi, but I grew up most of I think until I was like 6 years in Nairobi. I'm second one. I have an elder brother and 2 younger sisters. Yeah, and then when I was 6 years old, I think we moved back to Nairobi. Mm-hmm.
And what does it having being in the middle?
Well, I don't think I had middle child syndrome, where you have to fight for attention of anything, simply because I was never outgoing as the rest of my siblings, I suppose. Yeah, so I don't think I had that, but I think what was important is that I had a brother to look up to who I think molded me a lot, and I had 2 younger sisters who I'd make sure I protect. When the estate bully comes for them, I wasn't that strong, by the way, so I used to get my ass kicked all the time. But that's what I can say about myself. So,
being the middle child almost, what was your fondest childhood memory?
The games we used to play back then, that I'm sure, looking at the age group here, you guys have no idea what I'm going to say right now. But, when you put, muddy water into a tire, and then you put the sticks, and then you push them. I think that, and yeah, someone like, what's fun about that? But yeah, it used to be, and then you make a sound with your mouth to sound like your Lewis Hamilton bucket. Back then, there was no Lewis Hamilton. There was someone called Bjorn Waldegard. Yeah, so that was the fondest memory I had. I can see some people at my age group. Awesome. Yeah, okay, at the back there. Yeah. Some folks here looking at me like, this guy is weird. Yeah, cool.
All right. So, as you grew up as this young boy and in Nyanyuki, what was until the age of 6 years? What are some of the best lessons that you learned from your mom and dad and your siblings?
Yeah, I mean, if any of you have grown in a village setting like I have, it's you're kind of raised by the whole village, literally. And the friends you meet, the friends you make along those lines still stick till today. So I still remember a whole bunch of them. I think one of the key lessons I learned is that no matter who you are in society, never forget where you're from, and always appreciate the journey that you've always walked. And then also, there's a tendency for you to baseline where you are in life up here, and then forget that there is some. We're all from Africa, so there is some poverty that exists down here, and you really have to empathize and know that that's where your job is to lift that up, and not just sit up here and think that's the end of the story that you've reached on your own or whatever. So and stay grounded. But the most important thing, just as I described my fondest memory as that tile I mean, you see, I still talk like we used to talk back then. We used to call it tile. Now we used to call it tire. So yeah, so also always remember the simple things in life are the most important ones, and not really, the more complex or other things that you add.
Jack, how did your mom and dad meet?
Okay, so I know why she's asking that. So obviously coming from a mixed race family, I told Jessica. So my mom is third generation Indian. So my great granddad came here during the time for building the railway. The railway, yes, the railway. Thank God he was not eaten by the ghost and the darkness. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And so they're both in the medical field as doctors, and so that's how they met. They don't talk too much about it, clearly because they're old school. And there's no way an Indian mom will tell you how she met her husband, and there's no way a Kikuyu man will explain, what he did. So it's impossible. So we don't know the details, but yeah. And here we are. So that kind of means I'm very stingy.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So what was it like growing up in Nyanyuki? Can you explain a little more about the village life and what it took to actually get to building your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's look, I mean, obviously it was a very young age, and I did have a lot of good memories. We went to public school, and back then public school were really good schools, to be honest. And also when I came back to Nairobi, I went to public schools as well. So what it taught me is that always baseline yourself with where you are, but always aspire to do better things for you, yourself, and your community. My favorite time in Nyanyuki, at least, was when we used to go and chase the sheep for our neighbors when they used to come and eat my granddad's crops. The reason why that's very fun is because then there'll be always this one sheep male that will come after you, after you've chased everyone, and men would have fun with that sheep, man. It was the best time ever. So yeah, some people are laughing because I can tell they are also from the village. Yeah.
So as you grew up in the village, what was your favorite meal, your favorite song during family celebrations?
Honestly, anything that was made by a pot and the three stones, I don't know, some it tastes really good, right? Those of you, okay, some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. So back then, there was this pot that you put on top of three stones and you put the firewood underneath. And anything that pot used to make, it just used to taste good, even if it's burnt, for some reason. So yeah, I can't speak about one specific food item. I think all of them were really great.
Okay.
Even the tea was great.
So it was specifically that particular
smoked
pot.
tea. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have that contraption right now?
No, I don't think in my neighborhood they allow us to have that. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the songs you enjoyed during your family celebration?
Some of the what?
What are some of the songs you enjoyed during your family celebrations?
Well, I don't know if there's any song that I particularly remember right now. But I mean, all the normal ones that, and here I can't speak specifically in my area because I've traveled through. I have tons of friends from all over Africa and Kenya, and a lot of the wedding songs are really, really good. So if you ask me, the richness of wedding songs in Africa are what I like most. I think I sometimes just go for the reception part, not to eat, but just to listen to the songs that they play. So yeah, that's what I think is the fondness I have. If any of you has been to a wedding elsewhere in Europe or the US, they're kind of boring. And it's almost like a church service from beginning to end. Whereas this one is a lot of, who's dressed, there's a lot of color dressing and there's so much music and it's all amazing. And I like seeing that. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned African songs during a wedding. Which particular song is actually your best?
I don't know what they are.
Mugithi songs?
I mean, those are great, but there's also some from especially from Luyaland.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, one of my best friends actually, I was his best man, and I can't remember the song, but it
Can you sing it?
no, I can't sing it. Everyone will leave. Yeah. So we went for it. We went for it. I think it was when did you get married? In 2018. Yeah, and it was really something else. They have the drums, and then they have this thing, and then you have this procession. It's really cool. Yeah, I dance horribly, so, but it was nice. Yeah.
Okay. Jack, as you grew up, you're looking at my book very intently.
I'm seeing how many questions there are.
Okay, let me keep this. As you're growing up, what do you think you're good at?
So, I think I'm good at tech. I mean, period. I mean, I think that's why. I think that's the thing that called me the most. You know, one of the things that people say is it's always there are two important times in your life: when you're born, and not when you die, because you know you're dead, but when you discover what you're put on this earth to do. And those are they're really important times, but they're also the most scary times. I mean, when you came out of, I'm sure you panic. That's why all babies cry. But also when you discover that this is what your calling is, it's also quite scary. And for me, immersing myself into technology, and it was for me the time when I actually know this is what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I wasn't supposed to be a lawyer or something else. I was supposed to be a tech person.
And what part of your childhood or career did you figure that out?
And that's funny because, here, unlike our contemporaries, and we were just talking with Sam, many of our contemporaries, you read about them and they say they touched their first computer when they were 6, they bought a Sinclair machine or they did this and the other. And you're like, oh, geez, the first machine I ever touched, I was 17 or 18. Yeah. So, they all had a head start, Okay. Yeah. But when you, it's not like when I touched it, I said, wow, I'm going to become this. No. In fact, the first time I was like, oh, what games does it have? And that's as far as my interest went. But over time, after you start realizing, like back then, there were a couple of games, like, I don't know if some of you know this, there was something called Wolf that you could download on a floppy disk. There are like 6 floppy disks that you download, and hey, guys are looking at me like they have no idea. So floppy disks are these things that you used to insert into computers that store memory, almost like flash disks. I'm sorry, what? Oh, the save icon. Thank you. You see, that's why you're smart. It's a save icon. And so you'd insert 6 of them, and if one is missing, that game doesn't play. Or one is corrupted, and those floppy disks tend to be corrupted quite often. And so I used to discover so many bugs with the game. When, like, for example, when you're supposed to shoot, I think it was intentional though, so that you don't finish the game. So when you're like, why isn't it working? I actually pressed the right button, and so you're like, okay, how do I fix that? And so that, I think those sort of bugs things are the ones I think what piqued my interest in computers. And then at that time, there were not very many people who were in the computer field as well.
All right. So some of the things that have come out is you went to a public school.
Yeah.
You came across a computer at the age of 17. So,
Yeah.
Jack, where did you go to school and where was your first encounter with the computer?
No, so my first encounter was actually in university, by the way.
Okay.
So in Chiromo here, I did my first semester here in Chiromo University, Nairobi University Chiromo campus, and then I had an opportunity to go outside the country. One of the very few opportunities at that particular time. And the reason why I went out is because I think my folks probably realized I was spending too much time, doing other things other than going to class. So they're like, why don't we send you to some place where it's only you and you don't know anyone else there? I don't know what kind of strategy that is though, but it seemed to work. So I went off to the UK. I did my undergrad and my postgrad in computer science, and then went off to the US. And did a second postgrad in business for IT.
School?
Sorry?
School? Primary school?
Also, I was in
school?
Kilimani. So in Nyanyuki, I was in Nyanyuki Primary, and then when I came here, I went to Kilimani Primary School, which is just down Arguin's Kodek. Anyone here went to Kilimani Primary School? Oh, there are a couple of people. So we are Kilimani alumni. Yeah. So that's.
And how is it like shifting, coming from the village, coming to Nairobi at that time?
I mean, it was quite different.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I distinctly remember Thika Road was not the way it was right now. It was full of potholes. So I remember coming in, there had so many stuff at the back, and the car is rocking all over the place, and it's a carburetor car. Carburetor is, can we have like Sam? I think next time let's have a screen here, and then when I say something, you can tap and wiki it. There should be a wiki. So anyway, so it was one of those old school vans that we came with. And so the difference there is that, back then, there wasn't, in terms of people, Nairobi wasn't like it is right now, where it's a little bit unsafe, and you're scared to leave your kids to walk to the shop or to school alone. Back then you could. I mean, I used to stay down because my dad was a doctor. I was staying at Kenyatta Hospital, doctors' houses, and me, my sister, and my brother would walk all the way from Kenyatta Hospital, if you know where that is, all the way to Kilimani Primary School. Would walk, and it's not so bad, and we're tiny little kids walking, and it was okay. I can't remember even once anyone ever said anything inappropriate or attempted anything. Which and sometimes I used to leave the school late because of playing football late into the evening. So it was. I think Nairobi was quite good back then, I have to say. But I didn't see a difference, to be honest. I mean, for me, it was just now I have new friends, and that was it. Yeah.
So what subjects did you enjoy in high school?
I was more of the sciencey type. Yeah.
How did you figure that out?
I don't know. You just find yourself. I don't know. You just figure it out and find yourself gravitating towards one direction.
Were you a regular student at the University of Nairobi?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your first semester like?
So my first semester was. I mean, I think it's like any other. You're just meeting new people. You're young. You're staying alone finally for the first time. You want to discover many things, and so having fun pretty much. So yeah, it was that was it about me.
Okay. So when I asked you what are you good at, you said technology, right? And you've been 15 years in this game. So what exactly in tech?
Yeah, so just like a lot of folks I'm seeing here, I was in the dev side of things from the beginning. So I worked for BT as a solutions architect, which means that solutions architect role has changed quite a bit now. Now it seems like you're always supposed to figure out how pieces of an organization fit together. But back then, the idea was to actually build prototypes of how they will all fit together and give those templates to development team or implementation teams to actually go ahead and implement them. So that was my role, my first job actually, technically my first official job. Obviously, when you're out there, you do odd jobs. So I cleaned the subway once. I didn't serve at McDonald's though. I'm sure some you did though, but yeah, but I did clean the subway, and it was quite humbling because I think a lot of folks back then, you get your first year's school fees, and then the rest of it you have to figure it out for yourself, and so you have to get odd jobs. And so my odd job was I used to be at the library of the university. They used to subsidize my fees there, and then the rest of it I used to get it from cleaning a Kensington station. So if you know Kensington station in the UK, it's equivalent to Kencom. Yeah, and it's quite interesting when you think about it. It teaches you a couple of things. Number one, it builds character, I think. Number two is that you have to stay focused to what you want to achieve eventually.
Very interesting, Jack. So you mentioned in the conversation earlier that some of the fondest memories and things that you learned from your family was to stay grounded, be focused, and be nimble and humble. we have a lot of big tech coming into the African ecosystem, and the audience here and the ecosystem at large are very eager to join these type of companies. What made you come back to the African continent and Kenya specifically to get into big tech?
Yeah, I mean, it happened by happenstance when I was coming back. And it's quite an interesting story that I don't mind sharing, if you give me 2 minutes to do so. So number one is my mission was always to come back home. You know, when you feel it that okay, I want to get the experience, I want to work in exciting organizations, but eventually I want to come back to come back home. And not come back home for any lofty reason, but it's just that home is best. You know, I always felt like it's warm, it's a nice place. You know, people are great, and yeah, if you want to do something great, for at least remember something that you did well in your life, you'll do it here at home and not somewhere else. And you don't want to also be part of the, you know, in the Western world, you tend to be part of a small cog in a very big machine. You know, no one. I mean, you disappear, no one even notice. Probably, they'll send the guys of law and order to come and look for you. But it's generally that, you know, you're just there. But here you have an impact. You have an opportunity to make impact. You do something small, you know, in your small area. You know, people do see it and do want to appreciate it. And that's the nature of how we are as Kenyans, I think, specifically. So that's why I wanted to come back home. And so I made a conscientious decision to do that. And so when I finished my postgrad at HBS and wanted to come back home, I had an option to either go back and work for BT or come back home. And so when I told my boss, my sabbatical is over, I've graduated, I want to go back home, he was like, what a bloody waste of talent. You know, he was like, there's nothing happening in Africa. And he's not racist to anything. He's just saying what he knows about the continent. He's actually he's racist, huh? So I tried to tell him, but you guys don't have to be that mean. You know? So he was like, stay here. I mean, in a couple of years you'll be this, you'll be that, you'll be that. You know, I was like, no, man, I have to
Where
go
is
back.
here?
So that was the US. Yeah.
Where exactly?
So it was, well, not specifically. I think he meant like the office that we had in New York, but that time I was in Boston. So anyway, so I disagreed with him and I said, too bad, I'll come back. And so I came back, and I worked for NIC for 4 months, I think. And the reason why I worked for NIC for 4 months is it's not very. I mean, honestly, I came back to be busy, and NIC at that time was a very small bank. And so I remember I'd finish my work at 2 p.m. And then the rest of the time, I'm just roaming around disturbing people, you know. And now, for your sake, I was single, so you can know what I mean. I was disturbing people, and I was like, this is you know. And I was like, this is rubbish. You know, I didn't come home to do this, man. I came here to be busy. So I decided, you know what? I got another job with Standard Bank from South Africa, and then again that didn't work out for me very well because the idea was to come back home here, not there. And so they allowed me to work a lot from here. So I stayed here for quite some time. I think it was 3 years. And then again, you know, you can't make decisions because a lot of the decisions are made elsewhere. You feel like you're not empowered. You feel like, okay, I've given a shot. At least back in BT, I could make my own decisions. I could choose what I wanted to do. And I hadn't gotten brilliant ideas like do a startup or anything like that, you know. So I was like, okay, let me go back. So actually, I took a flight to go back and beg for my job. Yeah. One more thing, actually, another traumatic thing happened was that we had an election. So I remember it was, you know, you're seeing, you know, brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor, and you're like, this is.
That's 2007.
No, that was after. The one after. What was the one after? 13. It wasn't as bad as that one, but it still happened, and you're like, okay, this shouldn't be happening. Okay, so anyway, I went back, and then I called my boss, and then he was like. I'm on holiday in Bali. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Do you want to wait for me? I didn't tell him why I was there. So he was like, you can either wait for me or we can meet. I mean, I don't know what you want to do. So I said, okay, let me think about it and I'll let you know. So I said, should I stay here for 2 weeks or should I just go back home? And so I decided, let me go back home. And so I was in Heathrow. and I was talking on the phone, and I think the person who was so I was speaking Swahili, I think, or at least using a mixture of English and Swahili. And then this guy at the back taps me and says, "You sound Kenyan." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Kenyan." He's like, "Ah, okay, I'm Kenyan too." So we introduce each other, we walk around, and then he's an old man. He looks like my dad. So I'm like helping him carrying his bags because he had a huge bag. So I was helping him carry. He tells me, "Take me here. I want to buy something for my wife." So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we go. I help him choose things. I'm giving suggestions. And then when we get to the plane, when we get the boarding gate, it was a KQ flight, and then he's in business class. Obviously, I'm you know. So I go with him. I say, "No, it's okay. I'll carry your bag for you." So I carried his bags. I went, and then I put it up for him. I stored it away. He sat down. Then I told him, "Okay, it was nice meeting you. I hope we meet again soon. I'm going to my seat." And he looks at me and says, "No, sit here next to me." So I'm like, no. You don't understand. see, in boarding passes, this ticket number you see here means I need to go and sit at the back. So he's like, "No, sit here." So I'm like, "Okay." So I sit, and there you sit with your bum halfway out, because you'll be told to go, right? So and indeed, this lady comes up, the stewardess comes and says, "Excuse me, sir, can I see your boarding pass?" And I'm like, and then she looks at it. She says, "I'm sorry, sir, your seat is at the back." I'm like, how embarrassing, So then he looks at her and he says, "No, he's my guest. Let him sit here." So she looks at him and says, "Okay, let me see what I can do." And she goes. I'm like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And I'm like, who the? So I take out my phone on the side, and I'm like searching his name, James Mwangi. So I see. I'm like, huh? This guy looked familiar. I knew he looked familiar. So then all of a sudden I remember all the stories I told him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, oh. I'm like, oh, what, did you really have to tell him that one? So I'm like, now I'm sweating. So I'm like, James, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it was you, and I'm so sorry for all the things I said. And then he busts out laughing, and he was like, "No, you're honest. So please keep telling me those stories." So anyway. So that flight was the most uncomfortable flight I ever went for, because obviously it's a long flight. At some point you want to go to the washroom, and you're sitting on the window and he's sitting on the aisle, so you don't want to disturb him. You're like, can I, and then he has to wake up. So it was really uncomfortable. Anyway, long story short, when I get to Nairobi, he tells me in the way he likes to speak, "You cannot keep working for Mzugus. You come and build our Roku companies." Yeah, so that was cool. Yes, so he told me that, and then he gave me his business card. He says, "If you change your mind, let me know." So I sat on it, thought about it, and then read a lot about what the mission of the bank was, and what they've done, where they've come from, what they do. A lot of things. And so I think after a week I called him, and then he says, "Yeah, come in the office, come." And then we talked, and then he was like, "Okay, we're trying to bring up at that time Equitel." So he was like, and your background is in telcos, you understand what they do, so please go ahead and lead up the technical team. And so I was like, awesome, and you get empowered, and so that's how I ended up staying.
Right.
And I spent 6 years there. Thank you.
That's really intriguing, James. I mean, not James. Oh God!
See, even you make the same mistake. Yeah.
That's really intriguing, Jack, because James Mwangi does that to people.
Yeah.
I actually met him when I was walking down Washington on a street, and he was sitting on a bench just talking casually to another person, and I was like, I just passed, and I was like, "Yo, that's James Mwangi." Then I looked back at him, and he's like, "Hey, hi." And he remembered me because we had hosted him for a fireside chat in 2012 at the iHub. So, I mean, he's very down to earth, very grounded, as you said.
Absolutely.
So, Jack, as you sip your water, you've learned some of the things that you're good at. What are some of the things you're not so good at?
Oh, wow. Lots of things. There's a list. Where do I start? I mean, so one of the things I think I'm really good at, but I really suck, is singing. So when I saw your album, and I was like, when you're talented, I'm horrible. In fact, half the time, my kids are like, Dad, stop. You're really bad at it. I think a lot of the artsy kind of things I'm not that great at. So that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So you've given out some information.
And
You're a dad.
Yeah, I am. I have
Tell us more
3
about that.
kids. Yeah, so I have 3 kids, and a funny. I told the guys of Microsoft also. The other thing I'm not good at is also football. I think I am, but I'm not really. I'm not. And it's so funny. People like me. I don't know if you notice. We walk a little bit like almost like this, and so we tend not to be that great at football. I noticed that. I think footballers, you have to your feet have to be like this, like almost like you're bow-legged, right? So a funny story about that is that our current outgoing president also walks this way.
Yes.
Right? So when we're launching Microsoft Development Center, some of you may have seen it. So he walks also this way, and I walk this way. So half the time when we're walking, I'd step on him. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then he's like, no, it's okay. And then it happens like 3 times after. I was like, oh man, thank God this was not the 80s, man. People would have heard he was last seen, It was so embarrassing. In fact, I was like, I need to go for lessons to walk like a footballer, a real footballer this way, not this way. Anyway, so yeah, I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys and 1 girl, 11, 7, and 4.
Okay. All right. How did you get to meet your partner?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's when I came back. So I think we had known each other for many years. And so when I came back, that's how we met. Just we've been friends for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Jack, tell us what you're not good at. Music, not singing, what else?
Football. And I don't know what else interesting there is there. Clement, what else am I not good at? You worked with me for 3 years. My hair. Okay, so why Clement is saying that, he's an engineer at Microsoft. And so why he's saying my hair is because during COVID, he got hired during COVID. And so at that time, no one was going to the barber shop, right? So my hair was really long. And so they used to make fun of me that it was a toupee. So I used to tell them, guys, this is not a toupee, it's my real hair, because they think I'm bald. And so that's why he's saying my hair. I'm not bald. This is actually my real hair. Yeah.
Jack, that's funny. So people used to make fun of you?
Yes, a lot.
Oh, brother. Okay. As you're growing up, what are some of your childhood fears?
Geez, that took me a left field. I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't know if I had any fears, to be honest. I can't think of anything right now. However, right now, what I can tell you as an adult, some of the things you fear a lot is, at least for me, where I sit, I can talk about professionally. So one of the things you fear most is that, we and we're talking a little bit with Sam earlier on, is look, the role that some of us play in this ecosystem is to go out and bring opportunities to all of you young people here, especially in the tech industry. And for me, that's what I feel is what my role is on this ecosystem. I don't have extremely brilliant ideas like Sam to come up with or Conrad to come up with a company from zero and take it to a multi-million-dollar company. What I do best is I'm able to sit down and convince a lot of people sitting in Redmond or in Silicon Valley to come and invest in Africa for tech talent and for and build their development centers here. Or at least expand the scope. And the same thing in equity. It was a greenfield. Finserve and Equitel was a greenfield kind of investment. They started hiring people from scratch. And out of that simple company, they had about 250 people, additional headcount. In Microsoft, now they're hiring, I think there are probably about 500 people sitting in Microsoft. And then in Google now, they're probably going to have a lot more, although I'm not directly involved in that initiative. But that's what people like I do. That's a role, we play. Create opportunities for those of us behind us who, when during my age, we didn't have those opportunities. So the fear here is that, it's two things. Number one, as an ecosystem, we need to rise up to that challenge. So we need to get more engineers so that they don't say that we do not have talent in Africa. We do have it, but we just need to make sure that the skill set level gets to the level of global skill sets. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that we keep our promise that Africa is a place for them to invest, and so they can get a return on investment. And so those are things that keep me up at night of how can we make sure that we leverage these people who are coming here so that, our brothers and sisters don't have to leave Kenya to work for Meta or for Amazon or for Google or for Microsoft. They can do it from right here and earn a decent wage compared to, other places.